It's time to talk NASCAR once again on Prime Sports Network here on YouTube. And Eric, I must say that as we recap Richmond and Denny Hamlin's win, there were some good parts of this race and some negatives. And I think in general, it kind of and maybe because, as we said last week when we were comparing Richmond to Phoenix, I think that's what we kind of got. It wasn't a bad race, but compared to the other races, except for Phoenix, I think we could look at Richmond and Phoenix now are in one category and all the other races are in another. So far for me.
Yeah, I think it shows between an old surface and tire management tracks are definitely a different. It's like the old school NASCAR versus the new school NASCAR. It's like your traditional racing fans. Like, I like that race that we saw. I felt like the first stage was redundant. The second stage spiced it up with strategy. And the third stage, was all over the place. So it wasn't your typical, let's just run over each other and have everybody packed up. So for the new fans that want a lot of wrecks, this wasn't your type of race.
It's not Bristol.
Like Denny Hamlin said in his press conference that, like, he was told by his guys, his spotter, crew chief, and he kind of agreed with them that this is a veteran type race, because with Richmond, you could go fast. Like Blaney showed, like he kept saying after his pole run, my pole is not indicative of anything for Sunday's race because those are 2 laps. You run hard in qualifying. The race, you run hard, your tires fall off faster. You have to nurse and tiptoe around the track. And the faster you go, the harder you run, the quicker your tires fall off, the slower you go, the more people come through you. So that's what we saw. And if you look at the finishing order, 3 of the top 4 are in their 40s. Well, prior to this week, we have 12 straight winners that were under the age of 30. So I think it holds some merit. Those guys saved their tires right. Where Byron, and I thought we'll get into this, I don't know why they didn't pit. I don't know why you went 90 laps on one set of tires, knowing that the fall off was so great. And those guys, Hamlin went from a lap down to winning the race in 50 laps. So I like how there wasn't any cautions to kind of fluke their way in to change stuff around. It was a pure race to me, and I liked it.
All right, let's take a look at video here of the last few laps. And of course, this is pretty much when Denny Hamlin is going to catch up to Byron. So again, talk a little bit about, because pretty much this was all about the strategy of when to pit. And Byron, who had done nothing for half the race, they changed their strategy around to put them in the lead. And they actually held on. That was the thing that was crazy, is they were held on Martin Truex Jr. for such a long time, even though they had older tires. Maybe that was a bad sign for Martin Truex Jr. that he just didn't have the right car, because he wasn't able to hold off Denny Hamlin late either.
No, he had the wrong strategy, and he admitted that. And yeah, because Byron, I thought TV's broadcast didn't do as good as justice as MRN did. I was listening to MRN for whole second stage, and they're talking strategy where the broadcast really didn't mention Harvick or Hamlin until the very end. It was more Truex versus Byron, and Truex last pit on lap 323. Well, he should have probably pit again, but how Byron and Hamlin won this race was on lap 247. They pit under the first caution of the final stage, and they grabbed tires. They fell back. They were already towards the back of the lead lap cars. Well, the other caution came out 11 laps later, and the rest of the guys pit, handed the lead to them, and that's why Byron just held everybody off and for so long. Well, he pit on 310 and it looked like he was in the catbird seat. Truex on 323. Well, Hamlin and Harvick pit on 352 and 353, had fresher tires, and as you see here, they just drove right through. I mean, 6 to go, they were on Truex's tail. Now look, with 4 laps later, they got a 2.3 second lead on Truex just by that little bit. So it became a battle of Hamlin versus Harvick, and Hamlin with the Toyota and the Gibbs camp, like we talked about in the show last week, just had better cars. There was no way. Harvick probably needed at least another couple laps to catch him, but the race is a 400-lap race, and Hamlin won the race fair and square by strategy. But again, it was all strategy play, and look how much faster it looks like they're going than everybody else on. They were the last 2 guys to pit, and there's a reason for that.
Okay, so who do you in general then? Who do you think had the best Who was the best car, do you think?
I think Truex was. I still think he was towards the end. It just he didn't have the tires that Harvick and Hamlin had. But I felt like he had the best car, and that's what opened up stage two. First stage was a processional. Nobody was doing anything. Second stage, because the length of it, him and Christopher Bell, I'd say, probably had the two best cars, and they were on two different strategies, and it was working for them because on the end of the stage, I think there was 20 or 21 cars on the lead lap, and they made mention on MRN that we'll see who pits here. Because if everybody pits, then you're all back on the same pit sequence for a similar distance in the final stage. Now it paid off because those guys are the top two cars. Because going in, at the end of the first stage, Truex was fourth, Bell was seventh. Blaney led every lap. Well, then you get to the second stage, they're 1-2 with the two best cars. It worked itself out. They were the best cars. And in the final stage, if Hamlin and Byron, like they said, the only reason they pit on lap 247 was Hamlin had an extra set of tires. There's six guys that were on the one-stop strategy for the second stage. Bell and Hamlin were two of them. Well, now they had an extra set of tires for the final stage. Well, Hamlin was like, we're sitting back here in 14th. We might as well pit. There's only 20 cars on the lead lap. And Byron, I think, was 12th. So them and 7 guys all pit under that stop on lap 247. So they were still behind, but they had fresher tires. Let's see what happens. And then a caution comes out. They felt it was a little too soon because they never got to fully use their fresh tires compared to the other guys. But it actually helped, too, in a sense, because everybody else in front of them also pit. So they cycled ahead of them. Well, there was only 11-lap difference in tires, so there's not a ton of differential there, where now they held on to the spots. Truex and Bell came through and were right there behind them, but we never got a caution the rest of the way. And that's where it came down to the pit strategy. And for Byron to go 90 laps on a set of tires when 50 was probably the max you can go, that was kind of foolish. But granted, if they pit another time, they don't likely win anyways because the Gibbs guys are that much better. So
Byron was more of that was like they were trying to steal the win.
They were. And same with Larson. I mean, he was fifth. They tried to steal their way in, too. I mean, he last pit on lap 322.
Yeah, he had no right being there. Yeah, no.
No. And that's why I wrote about them. They kind of stole top fives. But at the end of the day, they got a top five. That's what you need. And it nearly worked.
Okay, so because this happens a lot in these types of strategy races, like with Truex, when Hamlin had pitted, and what was it? Hamlin and Byron, I think, pit at the same time, maybe? It was Hamlin and someone.
And yes.
Okay.
Hamlin and Byron pit on lap 247.
So you're thinking, all right, well, Truex is definitely coming in, and he doesn't. And then you're going, okay, We've seen this before. It just, to me, I don't know if I recall a situation where the crew chief decides, all right, we're kind of stuck in this strategy. I don't know if "stuck's" the right word, and we're just gonna go with it. And so we didn't pit right away. Now we're just gonna not pit at all for 20, 30, 40 laps, whatever it is. I don't usually ever see that working.
No, usually doesn't, especially on an H track.
So why do it? Especially when you have the best car. That's the thing that drives me crazy is when it's like almost these crew chiefs are overthinking things. You've got the best car, so you don't have to do anything crazy. And if they want to do anything crazy, well, okay, follow them because you have the best car. It doesn't matter.
And I feel like, too, if Byron or Hamlin doesn't pit on lap, if he didn't go on the one-stop strategy in the first stage, he's not pitting there. And I feel like Truex probably wins the race at that point. Because Hamlin won, and Harvick just followed what Hamlin did, because he didn't pit on lap 247 either. He pit with everybody on lap 258, but he went outside the box and pit again at lap 250 or 350 or 352. He pit again, where Truex would have pit one more time. He probably wins this race. He's got the same tires as Hamlin. They just overthought, like, well, we'll just go the strategy. We have track position for the running second if we get a caution, but. Yeah, why risk it? Just take the tires. You have a faster car than everybody.
Yeah, and and I know sometimes I think what it is maybe it's ego because you're seeing that cars that aren't as good as you are, and they're trying to do something to shake things up, and you're like, well, I'm not going to follow them. We're the better car. But hey, if that's what it's going to take to win the race, just do that. Follow them. You're the better car. It doesn't matter. Just don't allow them to trick up the race, which is exactly what usually happens.
And that's why it made this an interesting race.
Yeah.
Was it put those strategies out there? It's good for us entertainment, for them. I'm curious. But it put on a good race.
And finally, we talked a little bit about this last week, the coverage. And I like the fact that Chad Knaus was there. But and he said some things that were especially with all the strategy. But once again, what you're not getting is, like, he'll say something like he'll talk about we'll talk about the different strategies. But he doesn't go in depth on exactly what is going on now with those strategies. Explain yourself. Yep. What's going on? Give us the mindset of what Denny Hamlin's crew chief is thinking. What William Byron's crew chief. What Martin Truex. Tell us. Nobody tells us anything. They just go,
no.
Well, they're making they're trying different strategies, and that's it. It doesn't help people out, especially ones who are new to the sport.
Yeah, like, why are these guys faster? Well, they're faster because they pit on lap 3. I didn't know until I had to look at my scoring app and see what the last pit stop was. I'm like, they didn't even mention that Hamlin and Harvick pit on lap 352 for 353, and they did this to have fresh tires. That they didn't even mention. They probably saw, they pit, now they're a lap down, they're out of it. But then towards the end, I mean, it was all about, can Truex catch Byron? Truex is there. Truex is now 4 seconds back. Now he's 2 seconds. You didn't even talk about the guys that actually finished 1-2. Yeah. It's like because then you see it on the broadcast, like, oh, where the hell did Hamlin and Harvick come from? They never mentioned it. You never really talked why they did, why fresh tires were a difference. They just scratched the surface, but they never went deeper. And I felt too, Chad Knaus made a comment with like 90 to go about William Byron running a good race, and he's like, that was kind of a homer talk, because it's like, William Byron didn't deserve to be there. William Byron got lucky. William Byron, if you really want to look at it, William Byron was second in stage 1 because nobody did anything. He was 13th, where he probably belonged in stage 2. It was the pit stop that helped him. And then they pit on lap 310, and he was more focused on that, which I get. He's the competition director of Hendrick, so you're going to focus there. But you didn't focus on the other guys, and they never mentioned, well, Truex probably should have pit with Hamlin and Hart. They never said that. A lot be left to desire. Yeah. And then the pre-race show was.
But again, I don't blame Chad Knaus. We said this last week.
They're
not there every week. It has to be somebody else's job. Again, they got to get that other person in that booth that maybe go to a break. All right, you go to a break. Hey, here are some notes, Chad. Can you follow up on what you're saying about this? People want to know what you're talking about. When nobody, because Clint Boyer ain't going to do it. And Mike Joy's got so many other things that he has to worry about. He's not going to do it. And I don't think any of those guys are responsible. Somebody else has to be responsible, whether it's the director, whoever is in charge of running the show.
Boyer seems there to just be the comic relief, funny guy, but doesn't give you a whole lot of inside the car. And you need a crew chief. You need a crew chief that is a recent crew chief, that is no longer a crew chief or affiliated with any team that can do that. Like Larry McReynolds was great, but he's never crew chief this car. He hasn't crew chiefed in decades to be kind of that guy. So you need a recent crew chief that's no longer in the sport anymore to handle. I mean, heck, Cole Pern would be great. Granted, he's gone. He's not going to do it. But
what is he doing?
I think he moved to Canada. I think he's still up in Canada. He's not even close. Yeah, he's gone. Right. He's gone. He's way up in Canada in like the mountains or woods or
good
something.
For him.
He doesn't pay attention anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just need somebody like that. Like a Todd Gordon was great on the MRN broadcast, but I don't know if he'd want to do TV every week either.
All right, next week we will recap the race that's coming up on Sunday. Saturday night.
Saturday night.
That's right. We got a Saturday night race, baby, at Martinsville.
Yep.
And want to remind everybody to check out the race preview of this race coming up on Saturday night at Martinsville. That will be posted I think where we usually post it on Wednesday, I believe. We're recording on Tuesday. Yep. This show will be recorded on Tuesday and posted on Tuesday. So check that out. And if anybody out there has any questions or comments, leave it in the message board. Anything that you'd like to see us talk about on the show, especially relating to fantasy or gambling. And by the way, you got to check out racereviewonline.net. That's where Eric has all the in-depth information on these races, as well as the IndyCar series. And all of our information too regarding our fantasy, our weekly fantasy standings, our futures, which we really haven't talked too much about. We'll talk in the next few weeks about. So we'll get caught up on our championship strategies and obviously our weekly picks as well. So check out racereviewonline.net for that. And Eric, appreciate it as always. And by the way, for you IndyCar fans that are tuning in, it's only another month, and Eric is going to be pitching a tent at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for about 2 or 3 weeks. So,
might as well pay the mortgage to the pagoda.
Don't miss
That'll
it.
be the house. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Eric. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time.
You're welcome.